Welcome to One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm your host, your guide, and your coach on this journey, Dr. Wayne Pernell. Today, I have with me a special guest. My guest is a gentleman who lives at the intersection of CEO, CFO, and CMO, while at the same time bringing what I would call a philosopher's curiosity and a radical pragmatist discipline to how leaders make high stakes decisions. He's the founder and CEO of Proof Causal AI and one of the most thoughtful voices and one of the smartest men I've ever met. Thoughtful voices on causality, fiduciary risk, and executive accountability. My guest, welcome, Mark Stouse. So
Hey,
glad
thank you
you're
so
here.
much.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so good. Um, so the background on this, I met Mark, doing some outreach to leaders, and he responded saying, "Sure, I'll have a conversation with you." And in having that conversation, a 30-minute call turned into over 2.5 hours. We were saying, and
It's true.
so true. Yes. Rare that you find somebody that just sparks you and you keep going. It's good. So I'm smiling already at what we're about to produce, and I have no idea what that is. Let's talk a little bit about proof causal. Let's start there. What you're doing, why there's a need for it, and how you created it, and then I'm going to ask you to back up and go, okay, so what got you there, right? So, but start by talking a little bit about proof causal. This is what we do. This is how it works.
Causality is really the nothing more and nothing less than the study of why things happen the way they happen, um, what makes them happen that way, what could you have changed to maybe arrive at a different place or different outcome. Um, it's not just about what you do. So let's say that you're running go to market in a corporation, right? It's not just about the stuff you control. It's very much, in fact, mostly about what you don't control. And in fact, if you don't, that's like 70 to 80% of the whole equation is what you don't control and how you react to it. And so, really understanding that and then putting it all together is what causal AI, which is actually, a whole category of AI. It's not just for us, right? We have excellent competitors in the space. And it brings it all together and allows you to quickly and in a very agile sort of way create these causal models to look at whatever it is that you're trying to understand better and thus make better decisions about. Um, and so we do work with, probably the more and more the mid tier, and then obviously the enterprise.
So, do you specialize in any particular vertical? Could it be
No,
banking? Could it be
no,
retail? Could it be?
no. And actually, we don't really have to. We have to, the tool itself, the math, right, is agnostic, right? And it's very reality based. And so um, you don't really have to worry about that. What we have really learned how to do across many different verticals and many different situations, because even within a vertical, companies are different, is we really have gotten, I think, pretty good at asking really good questions. So we ask clients, tell me what you think is going on here. If you think about like macroeconomic factors, interest rates, things like that, tell me how that impacts your business. How does it impact the way your customers make decisions? So we ask
That's
a lot.
that's that's really the key, right? How do customers make the
Yeah.
decision to buy, really, right?
Yeah, and the same thing is true for investors. What makes them want to invest? What makes them feel scared to invest? Um,
How,
attracting talent, keeping talent, same idea, right? I
how
mean,
do you
basically,
parse?
there's kind of like three vectors that are fairly constant across any question you want to ask, and that is, how do I get more of something? How do I make it better or deeper or more profitable or whatever it's qualitative thing? Um, and then how do I accomplish that faster?
That's awesome. I mean, those are questions we should all be asking ourselves, right? How do I get more
Yeah.
of something, the thing I want? How do I make it better? How do I make my life better? And how do I do it faster? How is there some magic to parsing out correlation versus causality?
Yeah, it's completely different math. I mean,
And
like completely different math.
it's just math. That's all you look at.
Mainly, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it really is. It's mathematical technique, right? Effectively distilled into algorithms, right? But it is very different math, right?
Well,
Correlation. Go ahead.
I guess how do you know what to look for? It's like in the summertime, it's easy to say the increased use of ice cream causes sunburns, right? It's like that happens in
Well,
the
that
summer.
would be correlation for sure.
Exactly. So
Right.
how do you know what to look for when you go, well, it's summertime, of course more people eat ice cream, of course more people are outside. Sun causes sunburns, but it's easy to correlate an increase in ice cream use with sunburns. So how do you know what I guess
Well, if
really
you
what
if
not
you
to look at?
yeah, if it I mean, this is not a perfect rule by any means, right? But if you can't figure out a mechanism by which ice cream causes sunburn, right? Then that's correlation, it's not causality.
Well, I mean,
And
obviously,
that's it.
but
And obviously ice cream doesn't cause sunburn,
correct.
right?
I'm using it because it's a really easy example, right?
Yeah, it
It's like
is.
it's in the summer, increased use of ice cream, increased cases of sunburns. Therefore,
Yeah, like I mean,
they're
or like
linked.
in business, right? Again, we'll use go to market just because it's a great
Sure.
way of
Yeah.
illustrating
Good
it.
one.
Um, 70 to 80% of why people buy from you or don't buy from you has to do with where they are and what's going on with them and what's going on in the marketplace overall. Not, it's not something you can dictate, right? You can make happen. So the primary impact causally, right, is what I just said. The the reality is that you have got to figure out your angle. Like how if the interest rates are going up and that is on the surface a reason for your customers not to buy, how do you transform that into an opportunity to buy? How do you add so much value so fast, right, that it overwhelms their fear, right? And
And
that's causal. That's causal right there.
do you guide then? Is that your role, or is your role simply to point out you can't control this 70 to 80%, and so is that the guidance, or do you
Yeah, well,
actually?
you can't control it, but boy, you'd better understand it as best as you possibly can. You
So
know,
then, do you guide your clientele on what to do
yeah,
with
yeah,
it? Okay,
absolutely. I mean, the first model that we actually create for most clients is a marketplace model and it helps them understand the environment in which they are doing what they do, right? And that is usually extremely illuminating for them.
it's extremely eliminating.
Illuminating.
Oh, I heard eliminating. It's like, what are you
Well,
cutting
that
out?
too, occasionally. Yeah. But I mean, it's a there's kind of aspects. I mean, I would not want to like stretch this too far by any means, and I'm not a therapist, okay? But there are,
Do you play one on TV at least? Anyway, go
but
ahead.
not really, not like in a classic therapeutic sense,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Um, the but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use the Socratic system, the Socratic dialogue
Love
system
it.
to ask really great questions that make them think about things that maybe they haven't thought about before, and to become progressively more and more and more discerning about what's actually happening, and what is a pattern of behavior and what is materiality in that pattern, right? I mean, it's kind of a shock for a lot of people when they hear me say this, but about 80% or so of patterns that we observe in life have no significance, right?
Yeah. We attribute meaning where there is none.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And so that, in one very real sense, that is what we're trying to accomplish with causality, is to say, hey, these three patterns actually really do mean something. Anyone who wonders how a repeating pattern, in other words, something that people do over and over and over again, could possibly be not material, I would only point you to a website. I can create a website that drives very strong patterns of human behavior that mean nothing.
Mhm.
In fact, that happens all day, every day in most businesses around the world, right?
I'm
So
Social media is driven by it,
that's right.
right? So it's like if I can make you feel afraid of something, you're going to start paying more attention.
That's right.
And then if you get input from someone else who says, "Oh, did you see this thing?" And now you've got social proof. Now there's two people giving meaning to something that doesn't actually exist.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's so I mean it's one of the things that's really an accurate statement to make here is that causality is all about reality. So we don't talk about truth. Not that there isn't truth in the world, there is, okay? But it's kind of what my mom used to say was a conversation stopper, because truth usually has a lot of belief in it. Um, and if I don't believe what you believe, then we've just killed the conversation, right? So,
Nice.
so in terms of making progress, truth is oftentimes not, again, this is not all true all the time, but it oftentimes is not helpful. Then you have facts, and facts are better, but facts change, right? So they use the example I use all the time on that is that I can remember when Pluto was made a planet, and I can remember when that status was taken away from Pluto, and and they said no, that was a mistake. It's really a moon, right? Not a planet. Both are fact statements, but because we figured out things in between those two, right? One isn't a fact statement anymore. So facts are useful, but they're not determinate. What is determinate at any given moment is what is reality, regardless of whether we understand it completely. There is an objective reality. And so that is what we are seeking to study and illuminate, right, using causal AI.
Nice. Nice. And yeah, it's interesting. I love this. I'm a big proponent of truth. And that's because I'm a big proponent of the individual. So each individual has their own truth, and to my mind, they must pursue that truth, not not forsaking or excluding other information that might change that for them. But if they have a belief and they want to live into a
So
more
how would you differentiate between truth and belief?
and let's add one more, which is faith, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So a personal truth is strongly founded in belief,
right.
and belief and faith overlap at this point. And
Right.
so belief, like the difference between regret and worry, right? Anxiety about the future, and regret or shame about the past, is that it is belief placed in the wrong direction.
Right. So let me give you an example of how that plays out in our line of work,
Okay,
right?
yeah, perfect. This is right. So, can I jump in real fast? This is let's a business owner goes, I've got a really strong gut feeling about this, and I want to produce ta-da this whatever XYZ is, and you go, sounds good. Well, then what? Right?
Well,
Is that where
actually,
you were going to
where I
go
was
with it,
gonna,
or
the way I was going to illustrate it is uh, aggregated belief, right, is tribal wisdom. Okay.
oh, that's well said.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens though when the tribe is objectively wrong? So a great example
That
of this,
happens all the time, right?
yeah,
It's generationally we were taught, right? We were taught this and we were taught that, and grandma used to make the pot roast by cutting off the ends, so we all make the pot roast by cutting off the ends. Why? Because her pan wasn't big enough to hold the pot roast, so we all learned to make the pot roast,
that's exactly right.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
If we were able to peel the onion and get all the way back to the original fact set, right, we would find most often something like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like the go-to-market professions have where you really see this very powerfully is in Gen AI tools like
Hmm.
ChatGPT and okay, because what they're doing is they are what's called a stochastic mirror of human tribal knowledge, right?
Yes,
On the internet
yes,
and in particular on the internet.
2 o'clock.
And
yes.
so you get a situation where there are domains like physics that are dominated by fact. Not that they don't have opinion in them, but it's very strongly skewed towards evidence. Let's call it evidence, right? And then you've got domains like marketing and sales and leadership, which are dominated by non-fact. And non-fact can mean everything from personal opinion to an outright lie, an untruth, to our best guess, our best practice, our accumulated experiential knowledge. Okay. But because we can't say, yes, we know this to be accurate, we call it non-fact.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, the problem with this is that like in the go-to-market area, those tribes have some of the strongest cohesion culturally of any professions. and they get their information from each other, which actually has been a huge part of the problem
Hmm.
for quite some time, because a lot of what they pass along to each other is not correct, not accurate, not representative of reality. And we can show that. We can prove that. That's not just another form of opinion, right? That's not belief. That's not my truth versus somebody versus their truth, right? This is reality. Um, it's kind of like gravity. Gravity doesn't give a rip whether you believe in it or not.
Right.
If you have a personal truth that says that gravity is a fiction and you choose to jump off of a building to prove it, the same thing is going to happen over and over and over again. That is a deterministic outcome,
Yes.
right? Where you land and whether or not you land on somebody else is totally probabilistic.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where we are right now. And the reason why that is coming into sharp focus right now is that the environment in which we all operate is full of turmoil,
That's for sure.
okay?
Yep.
And very rapid change. So
It's,
it's invalidating all of the past patterns.
that's interesting too. Then, see, this is why I love talking with you, Mark, because it just sort of sparks some things in me from my perspective in working with humans, either as individuals trying to get better or as individuals who are leading teams or as a group of leaders. The truth that they have to present is changing, right? It's like because the information they're getting is changing. We as humans now are in a space where we are questioning the things that we were taught, which is great news in so many ways and terrible news in so many ways, because now it's like, well, who, right? There's the existential dilemma, even stronger, of who am I? If what I've learned is no longer accurate, then who am I? And the good news is you get to be whoever you want, follow
Yeah,
certain laws, right? Follow certain rules like
yeah.
gravity. I mean, there are laws of the universe that exist. Great. Follow those and create what you want. I'm going to bring this back to the work you're doing. Do you have like a use case? Do you have a case example where somebody called you and said,
Yeah.
help us identify where we're going and how to cut out the things that don't matter? Like, is that why people would call you?
Yeah, I mean, that may not be, it may be a little more practical and less philosophical or elevated than that. Okay. But, they will say, wow, you know what? We get the feeling that what we're doing right now isn't working anymore. And thus we're worried about wasted spend and how to improve allocations and things like that. Can you help us? I had a call today with people representing a large pharmaceutical company who was getting pretty concerned about its go-to-market, and these people wanted to know if we could help them. And I said, look, it comes down to this. It really does. You're doing all this stuff to accomplish these outcomes over here. You've got all this stuff that you don't control in the middle. These are headwinds, tailwinds. There are the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns, right? About that.
Right.
And you've got to make sense of that. And what you're going to find out when you start working with causal AI, with proof, is that um, probably about a third of what you've been doing, minimum, is not working. So now you know it. You can stop spending that money on that stuff. So that's really good. You just saved a bunch of money going forward, and you can then invest that money in other things that you know to be working now because of the models. And so this is classic opportunity cost. In this case, you're winning both ways, not losing.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I love
I mean,
this.
so basically, even though this is going to sound like I don't want it to sound, okay.
Nice
But
inoculation.
I I uh I really believe in and support personal freedom, personal agency. In fact, you could argue that what I do, what we do at Proof, is all about improving that, improving personal agency, improving outcomes, improving decisions, right? Um, that said, if I hear somebody say something in their, professionally in their area, right, that we already know to be not true, I would not be acting in their own interest if I didn't raise that and didn't attempt to show them the evidence for a different point of view, right?
If they were a client, it's not like you walk down the street and you go, "There's some BS right
Oh
there."
no,
There's
yeah, no, that's very true. But when I'm here on a podcast, one to
yeah.
many type of thing,
Yes.
and I'm doing it right now, right? I mean, I'm sort of doing that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that gives me permission is you and the fact that they chose to listen to this conversation.
That's great. So I mean, personal agency is really what you just said in a different way. Is that you have personal agency over about 30% of your life?
Yeah, at most.
Isn't that great? Like I think it's an amazing thing to actually say and go, okay, so 70 to 80% of your life you have like it's just out there. And partly it's
Yeah,
because of what other people do, partly it's
but
the weather,
it
it's
also breaks down further, right? Depending very much on the situation.
yeah.
So a Major League Baseball player, okay, a 350 batting average, okay,
Oh, I
that's
love
a
this.
that's
Yes.
a that's a
Yes.
heroic batting average, and yet it means that you struck out two-thirds of the time.
Yes.
You're on an academic scale, even a business performance scale, you're not just a failure, you're a abject failure.
Yeah, epic failure.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we talked about surfers, right? Champion surfers, their wipeout rate is 98% plus. And so the payback on that 1%, forgetting the money for a second, just psychically, psychic income has got to just be intense for them
Yeah.
to put up with the 99%.
I love this because it just sort of came to me during this conversation is that we do get to choose 100% agency in the 20 to 30% we can control
Yeah, or in those two examples, less.
or less. Yeah, in right in sports, in baseball, in surfing, much less. See, because if you said what you did, we have control over 20 to 30% maybe of our lives. That's pretty upsetting, right? So
Well,
think
for a
about it.
lot of people that is, right? I mean, particularly if you are the kind of person who believe that you're a master of your universe, right? That's a very discouraging statement that I just made.
It could be.
And
And
yet,
and I
for me
take it.
personally, I don't lack ambition. I'm pretty type A, right? It was when I realized that, like for real, it was actually quite liberating. And not in that it liberated me to be somehow lazy, right?
Right, you didn't abdicate at that point.
No, but what I really did realize, this is something that my parents used to say all the time to us when we were growing up, right? Your obligation is to do your best and to do what is right, and you have no control over the outcome. And existentially, that is true. Occasionally, we have a, let's call it a run of luck, right? That makes us believe that somehow we have defied gravity, right? And that we are somehow much better than everybody else in terms of controlling our fate. And that is a delusion.
Doesn't the ability to believe in a particular way influence where you put your energy? And doesn't then where you put your energy influence the effect on the outcome? If you go to a
You're
baseball
leaving
player,
out the third leg of the stool, though. You got to understand reality.
good one. Okay.
You know you are bigger than the life you are leading. It really is time to attend to that thing you've wanted to do or have, but you've been putting off. It's time to step into that dream you've parked for someday. It's time to claim true well-being, both personally and professionally, without giving up the success that got you here. It's time to check out Dr. Pernell's signature small group retreat, the Exponential Success Summit. Explore exponentialsuccesssummit.com. Seats are extremely limited as this is a very special small group event. www.exponentialsuccesssummit.com.
So using the baseball player, right? There's this belief I could be an all-star. And that belief brings that person to practice more and to get in front of the right people.
Right.
And then there's the reality of there are thousands of other people who have that belief and are trying to practice more and be in front of the right people. And then you don't have control over the outcome of who the scouts pick, but you have control over your outcome of having been in that place to be among the selected or among the observed for selection.
The other part to this, which is where it really gets pretty stout, right? Is that almost everything in life, from a cause and effect perspective, is time lagged. In fact, the
Yes.
in fact, the only thing that isn't time lagged
Yes.
is really bad stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So
Go offer more, please. This is great. This is great.
so there's an immediacy to bad stuff that you think about so somebody murdered Rob Reiner and his wife last night,
Yes, to
right?
put a timestamp on our podcast. Yes.
Mhm. And so that is a that's something that didn't take any time at all to whisk its way around the world. It was probably, if you were aware of, if you were on a news channel or social media or whatever, right? I would just guess that well over half the world knew about that within 1 hour.
Hmm.
And yet, really good news takes a long, long time to make its way out into the world and to have an effect.
Wouldn't you say that's true about goodwill as well?
No, not really.
No? You put
No, because
in good effort and it takes a while to be noticed, but
oh, that yeah, okay. So
you do
that's what
one bad thing and suddenly you're labeled for that bad thing.
yeah, no, that is exactly what I'm talking about. That is exactly what I'm talking about. We all talk about the fact that it takes a lifetime to build up a reputation, but you can destroy it in 5 minutes,
Hmm.
right? That's exactly what we're talking about. And that's exactly the way it really works causally. You really can see that. So one of the things that a causal model computes is just a normal output, right? Is it's looking at the time lag effects for everything, every causal element or potentially causal element that you're examining. In B2B business type stuff, those time lags are anywhere from like 9 to 16 months. But if your CEO has a terrible flagrant affair with the CFO, right, and it comes all unwound, it's going to come unwound really fast. The
Hmm.
consequences are going to be experienced really fast. That's what I mean by, immediacy versus not immediate.
So what I'm, I'm the perpetual optimist, and what what's the feel good out of this? Like, yay, we get the bad news right away, and
Yeah, it
um,
is. Because, honestly, I'm writing a book right now on unlearning.
yes, okay,
Okay.
talk about
And
that.
so and so you have to be willing to not only to learn, but to unlearn. This is actually a nearly fatal issue with Gen AI is that it never unlearns. It just re-averages new stuff with old stuff, right? So it's a very dilutive thing, particularly since it doesn't maintain any kind of North Star about reality.
Socially as well, right? That's generational wisdom is, well, we've always done it this way, whether that's in a company or in a family. This is what we do, because this is who we are. And I didn't know you were writing a book. This is fabulous news. Unlearning is that excites me a lot because I
Well, it's
think
the I think it's one of the most egoless things we are called upon to do,
absolutely, because you
right?
let go of, right, ego is what identity have you given yourself?
Right.
Have you accepted? Have you taken on? Do you continue to perpetuate? And if you can unlearn, it means you're willing to let go of the things that no longer serve you. That's
That's right.
amazing.
That's
That's
right.
amazing.
Actually, it happened to me as recently as last night.
Oh,
Okay. So we are putting up the Christmas tree, and my oldest son, he's 20, he wanted to kind of run the show. So he is putting the lights on the tree, and I see him connecting many strands of lights as if they were one strand. And I made a comment to him. I said, I think that you'll find, like if you go on chat GPT or something like that there's a maximum of anywhere from 3 to 4, maybe 5, depending on wattage, that you can string together as one long strand before you have to start a new extended strand, right? And so he looked at everything that was on the boxes with the lights, and then he asked ChatGPT, and he goes, "Dad, you're wrong because these are LEDs, and the wattage is so much less that I can connect every single one of these and not even come close to the limit." Right. And I thought, you know what? I probably really needed that.
Yeah.
Not just on that issue, right? But it punctured a balloon, right?
That you're the dad and you know everything, and this is what you were taught,
That's right.
right? Your dad
Yep.
taught you not to string things together because, there's only
So many amperage.
so much amp. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so it's a and so I just kind of said, well, okay, I just learned something new, right? And this is very much so life is, I mean, if there's something that you find all the time in 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s rock and roll, right? It's about grabbing and letting go.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so this is not a new observation at all, right? But usually it's been talked about more relationally or abstractly, right? It's never been really applied until very recently to knowledge because we collect knowledge,
Nice.
okay?
Yes.
And it informs, as you said, it informs so much of how we see ourselves, right? The problem is that like right now, we're actually working on a model right now for this book, right? On what is the rate of obsolescence on knowledge. So like if you've been doing what you're doing for say 25 years, right? And you kind of say, okay, so number one, the question um, is there sort of like a way of dividing it? Right? Like, how do you segment out almost like chronologically, but it's a little blurrier than that, right?
Yeah.
Because of the way we use it. How do you segment it out? And then at what point is a piece of knowledge totally obsolete,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you actually, for reality, right now, you know less than you did 5 years ago.
Well, I
That
came face to face with that, right? My doctoral dissertation had to do with sleep and performance following. Actually, it was sleep following exercise and daily performance following that. And so the research into sleep during the time, this was 40 years ago. So, right at that point, what we knew about sleep was so different than what we know now. It
right.
was relatively new. The sleep stages were just assigned maybe 5 years prior to my dissertation. And so I was the expert, darn it. And then not using it and being out of the field and doing other things. And I come back to it and someone's like, here's the research on sleep. And I'm like, that's BS. There's no, oh, oh, that's new, huh? And just having to let go and going, there are pieces of my research that still stand. They're really solid. And there are pieces of my research that we now know are based on what was known at the time. And great, I would build on it from there. But right, so letting go of that being my identity, it's like I did the work, I got the doctorate, ta-da. Um, but the research itself is not my identity, which is amazing. And so, from Christmas trees to clinical research, it's like, what you're uncovering is so important. It does affect individuals, it affects organizations, it affects the way leaders lead. I love this so much. It's like this is the kind of stuff that just
And
sparks me.
it's hard. It's hard, particularly when you're trying to sell something to someone because you kind of what part of what's necessary about that is that they almost kind of have, if they don't like you, they at least have to trust you, and all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff, right? And so if you are saying, well, actually, the most common frameworks and best practices around how B2B teams are going to market. Okay. So this is marketing and sales and customer success and product, right? All together.
Yes.
That is, they're doing it almost without exception. They're doing it wrong for today,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Almost.
man, they don't like that.
No. Well,
And so
people are
actually, if they're
people.
not open to buying from me, okay, it's their CFO that buys from us.
Yeah. I mean, people's responses to emotional tugs are always going to be people's responses to emotional tugs. But beyond that, buying behavior is based on so much. And do you do you go into even the details around packaging when you talk about go to market? When you talk about like how are we packaging it versus what are we saying about the package? Do you go like
If it's relevant, if it's relevant,
I just
sure.
didn't know how deep your organization went. Like
Well,
when you do.
the thing about what causal AI can do is it can go as deep as you want to go, right? There's not a practical limit on how you can focus it, you can use it, or how many factors you can bring into it. Now, I will say this, having said that,
Let me
most
say this about that. Go ahead.
most customers are really surprised, and we tell them this up front, but they're still surprised. They will bring it, they'll bring us like 300 variables to put into a model.
300 verticals into one model.
Variables,
Oh,
variables.
variables. Okay. Into
Okay.
one model.
Into one model. And we're like, okay, well, that's fine. I mean, we can do that, but you need to know in advance that only about 10-ish of those are going to be material, right? And then if we start, pulling less material ones out, you'll be able to see just how material or immaterial those really are. Because if you pull it out and even though it is as a singular factor, not very important, not very material, if you pull it out and a lot of other things change, then you're going to need to put it back in, right? But if you pull it out and nothing changes, then you have to really question why you're doing that thing at all. And at least in this context, whatever it is
Hmm.
we're looking at, right? And so it's a very you're pulling people's beliefs through the eye of the needle in causal AI,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think this is right. So to pull out some gems that our audience can use individually, independently, you're talking about focus your work. Like if you were to reflect on your day, each of us, if we were to reflect on our own days, we would probably find about 80% of our time is in activities that don't actually matter, right?
That
That's
is correct.
yeah.
And it's not that you should strive to only do what matters, okay? Because then you'd be a very productive but probably unhappy person, right? Um, it's about a balance, striking a balance.
Yes, good.
Right. And you also have to realize that you're never going to strike that balance perfectly, even with causal AI, right? You're not going to do it perfectly. And so there is so again, we're not talking about fate, right?
No,
I actually
no,
don't believe in fate, right?
good.
I think that what we are talking about is agency.
Yes. Yes.
And part of agency is the agency that you have over your agency.
Which is where I said, look, you have 100% control over the 20 to 30% in your
Right.
control,
Right.
right?
But if you
So,
choose, but if you choose to go take a nap, right, you're exercising agency over what is ultimately a blank, right?
I actually have I actually build naps into various parts of my week.
Mhm.
So, do I have control of what happens while I'm sleeping? No. Do I have control of the result of rejuvenation partway through the day?
Okay,
Yes.
so that's actually a great example. I'm so glad you brought that back around
Well,
because it
well, you
clicked.
said naps.
It just clicked. So if you were to run naps in a causal model, okay,
Okay.
on some business outcome, right?
This is great. I love it when you smile and go, this is actually a great example. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Good.
So you're gonna say as a standalone variable in the model, the naps are not going to mean much. But if you remove naps, okay, the knock-on effect of that could be very substantial,
Absolutely.
right? And so that is a that's a great illustration of what
Yeah.
it is we're talking about, right? I mean,
Well, I have agency over my day. Like, I know I'm super productive before the sun comes up. I'm
mhm,
good until about 10, 11, 12, maybe
right,
just approaching noon.
right.
From noon to about 3, I'm sort of like in this I'm good space. But if I can get a nap between, I don't know, 2:30 and 4, just even 20 minutes, somewhere in there, then
Mhm.
I'm good to go till 10 o'clock at night. And it's like, I'm up, I'm ready to go, I'm in it. So left to my own devices, like,
That is the actually the what you just described is the genius of the siesta.
true, right?
So
Right.
my grandfather raised my dad and his brothers and sisters in Mexico City during the 30s and 40s,
Huh.
and he had a really great position and all that kind of stuff in a business, but he would go home around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He would have lunch with his family, and then he would take about a 45-minute nap.
Mm,
And then he would go back to work and he'd work until like 8. Because in Mexico, at least in that part of society, they didn't eat dinner until like 10,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And so you just you realize that if you want to achieve certain things, there are hard and soft investments that you make,
Right.
right? And that, yes, you could work harder and steamroll through the whole thing and have a sense of accomplishment and then just be totally wiped out,
Yes.
right?
People used to say, oh, sleeping's for sissies. I'll sleep when I die. And it's like, well, not sleeping will get you closer to that. So,
Mhm.
right.
Well, I think that also, when things get really chaotic in the macro, I'm using it now, macro as everything, not just economics, right?
Okay. Hmm.
Um, you start really appreciating the idea of sustainability. And so, what you're really doing with causal analysis is that you are figuring out where the balance point is in everything, and you're kind of maintaining that structural balance. And so that means you're not wasting nearly as much, and all that kind of stuff. You're getting more output, you're getting more effectiveness from what you do than you were before. And so that makes you, among other things, more efficient, and more sustainable, right? Now, where the fallacy is right now in business everywhere is they talk about efficiency, and it's not efficiency that they're talking about. They're talking about cost cutting.
Yes.
And
And
you
sometimes
can't,
just busyness.
yeah, and you
Be
can't
busy.
here's the big deal on this. And this is a statement of absolute fact. Okay, so people can believe whatever they want to. They can have their truth around it, whatever they want to. It's up to them. But this is one of those things like gravity that just is what it is. You are you are not going to defy the odds on this, right? You're not going to be able to say, well, I'm just going to make whatever we do more efficient, meaning each incremental unit of it costs me less, without knowing first, is it effective? So efficiency is a derivative of effectiveness every time, all the time, no exceptions, right?
The I have an example that I use with organizations when I consult. And that is you could have two really finely tuned race cars lined up side by side. And they are really tuned to be super efficient. They burn, they purr, right? And if one is tilted off just the slight, just 2 degrees off, and the green light goes, and they're on this salt flat, and they're ready to go, and one goes straight toward the finish line, the other goes straight off 2 degrees. They're both running efficiently, but only one is effective.
That's right.
That's the way I describe it when I do consulting, so that it's like, is what you're doing actually getting you closer to the thing you said you wanted?
So another way of putting it is that the single greatest contribution that you can make to your overall efficiency is to stop doing whatever is ineffective.
That is great because there's so much now, more and more and more. The message is successful leaders make the fewer decisions, right? They are decision efficient, right? In that, if you take out all the distractions, all the noises, all the noise, all the distraction. I mean, Steve Jobs was famous for wearing just his
Mhm.
black turtleneck, right?
Mhm.
So he didn't have to decide what to wear.
But that's a super easy example.
Right, it is, and yet it allowed him to stay focused. So in a normal day for people who like to wear different clothes, right, and have different decision making at your organization, what is it that you need to do as a leader to eliminate the external noise, right? So, right, you're saying that to
So,
be effective or to be efficient, you eliminate the things that are not effective.
right. I mean, another kind of corollary to this, right, would be something that Dave Coady, who was the chairman and CEO of Honeywell for a long time, and I had the pleasure of working around him a lot. And he would say, this is actually about time lag too. He would say, anyone can manage for the short term, and anyone can manage for the long term. The trick is in doing both at the same time.
Nice.
Most leaders don't know how to do that. And in a world like we live in right now, they are going to struggle like they've never struggled before. I mean, I think that if we continue to see what we're seeing right now in the marketplace for say the next 5 years, there's going to be almost a wholesale change in leadership in large companies.
That makes sense, and it's probably needed, given yeah,
Yeah.
given what we're doing, given the
Mhm.
new climate.
Well, also, they also no longer have a choice. So things like Delaware and the EU's redefinition of fiduciary duty and what that really means. It means if you're not proactively running your business from a risk adjusted basis, right, then you're not doing your job anymore. And the
Mhm.
business judgment rule that's been accepted by courts for the last 50 or 60 years is out the window. If you look at what the SEC announced about a month ago for 2026, that if you are using AI in any part of your operations, not just financial reporting, but anywhere, you're going to have to show what happens to shareholder interests as a result of using that AI. That is accountability deluxe.
I
Okay.
think it's necessary because
It
people are
is.
making decisions based on AI, which, as you've pointed out, is getting aggregate information, which is not truthful or not useful. So it's great. It's great. I want to go back. I want to. We're gonna wind up here in a second.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to highlight just something you said a few. It feels like just moments ago, and it was a few minutes ago. Strike a balance of what matters and what makes you happy was one of the key things you said amongst
Yeah.
all the other things that were very somewhat technical and somewhat philosophical and somewhat pragmatic. And I love all of it. And it's just like this is one of those like cool. We're going and going, but strike a balance of what matters, and it's
Yeah.
what
I
matters
think
to you, right?
this is why it's just completely dumb, really. Okay. When we judge each other's tastes,
Isn't that great?
it's really dumb. One of the best conversations I've ever had in my entire life was with my oldest son around a campfire, and we were talking about that exact issue, that question, right?
Yeah.
Because there's certain foods he doesn't care for that I really like. And unfortunately, a normal human response is to go, "What is your problem?" Right? You don't like mashed potatoes? Like, who doesn't like mashed potatoes? And yet the reality is that it's just personal taste.
Yeah.
What we're really saying is I want to be able to share my love of mashed potatoes with you. And when you say I don't like it, I don't like mashed potatoes, I feel rejected.
Right, becomes a personal identity thing. Someone is rejecting the thing I love. It's like you got an ugly baby. What? That's right.
Yeah,
No one
yeah,
says that, but that's the way it feels, right? Is that oh,
yeah.
we're not allowed to dislike. Eh, it's so interesting because that's there. That gets back to tribalism, back to based wars are. We have particular tastes, we have particular likes. We also assimilate things we were taught to assimilate as our own. You live in this territory, you must like this sports group because they represent you and your territory. It's like, well, actually, I'm. People don't like
Yeah,
taking me to
I'll give
sports
you an
games because
example I just encountered not too long ago. So, and I realize that this won't be, what some people listening to this conversation are going to like, but I love to bird hunt and I love to fly fish, both of which entail the death of animals. Okay.
do you eat them?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Okay, so I mean,
Yeah.
they're feeding
So,
you.
yeah. And yet they will, a lot of times people will immediately believe that I have a certain set of political beliefs because I hunt and fish that actually I have the exact opposite beliefs politically. And yet So we pattern match our lives, we pattern match each other,
It's a
right?
huge, that's a huge phrase
And
to
so and
keep
that's
with us.
correlation. That's
Yeah.
correlation. We're pattern matching. And just look at how often we are wrong when we pattern match. This is why, actually, from a purely statistical perspective, right? This is why racial profiling in law enforcement is such a no-no,
Yeah.
because you're going to get it wrong a lot,
A lot.
like a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
One way of
The good news is we care now, right? Like
right,
50s,
right.
back in the 50s, it was, or before, I mean, there was this sense of there's close enough. And it's like, that's terrible, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Pattern matching is it's interesting.
Well, we make a really big deal today about intuition.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying it's bad, okay? But we are not born with intuition in the way that we are born with instinct, okay? Instinct is hardwired, and you only get intuition by collecting experiential data, and it begins to flesh out what are called heuristics, right? Shortcuts to decision making, right? And these are all pattern match,
Mhm.
100% pattern match.
Mhm.
So your intuition is really very much like your own personal private machine learning.
Wow.
Okay. But we have all known people who just seem to always make the wrong decision, right? Particularly in certain areas of their life. I would submit to you that this is GIGO operating, right? Garbage in, garbage out, right? And their data sets are really screwed up, and the way that they interpreted their data sets is even more screwed up. And so when you look at your intuition, which is part of your subconscious, right? And you look at the duty of the subconscious, which is to defend your life, right? If white is black and black is white, your subconscious is going to steer you in the direction that it believes will save your life.
Yes.
But if that actually, in point of reality, exposes you to greater danger, that's a problem.
Except, right? And it's a problem in the real sense, except your subconscious goes, because you know how to handle chaos, so you're safe. That's the, right? That's where people relive the same bad relationship over and over again. The same bad handling of money, the same bad decisions. Your subconscious is keeping you, quote unquote, safe based on previous data sets that it said, well, we've survived this already, so this is what survival is. This is great. This is
Right.
awesome. All right, you and I could go on and on, this is fabulous. Let's go ahead and wrap this one. We may choose to do another because, what the heck? I may
Absolutely.
choose just to fly up and see you and have lunch with you at some point, just because. What if anything? I really love just the whole idea of strike a balance of what matters and what makes you happy. I'm reading from some notes I took. This isn't about fate; it's about agency. Find the balance point to get more effectiveness and efficiencies from what you do, and then just be aware of your own data sets. Like, be willing to unlearn. And I can't wait. When's your book coming out?
That one I think is going to come out August, September.
Beautiful.
I've got another one coming out pretty shortly. It's on causal AI.
Okay. All right. Is there anything, like, we've said so much and there's so much more to talk about. Is there anything that you were hoping we'd talk about that we didn't?
No, I think that, I think that one of the things that I would just stress here at the end, right, is that all of this sounds incredibly deep and heavy, right? And you don't have to live it out on that basis, right? You can live it out rather superficially. Most business analytics in causal AI are very superficial, right? They're just designed to help you make better and better and better decisions and trigger the laws of compounding in your favor. That's it. So it's not trying to psychoanalyze you or anyone else. It's just this is just operational stuff. Um, by the same token, I mean it doesn't get. I'm a very concrete, very pragmatic person. I realize that the last hour of conversation doesn't necessarily come across that way. And it's not that I'm not a philosopher. I am, but I'm a philosopher in a kind of a very pragmatic way, right? Like I don't get into how many angels can dance on the head of a pin sort of conversations. I want I want to mean something, right?
You'd have to know how big the pin was, how big were the angels, what kind of dance.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And it all just gets too abstracted, right?
Yes.
And so I would just encourage you guys as you think about what you've just heard today is to realize that at the end of the day, this is rooted in radical pragmatism. If you choose to, you can use it to explore the meaning of the universe, right? You really
For
can
yourself,
for
right? It's
yourself,
an individual interpretation, which
right?
is really great, Mark, because this is where radical pragmatism turns into individuality
And agency.
and agency.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
like this is one of the things.
Darn it. We're going to keep going for another
So
hour
many.
here, aren't we?
Yeah, there's so many people that we both know, all of us know, right?
Yeah.
That try to control people, right? How exhausting,
Hmm.
right? I mean, I can barely control myself most of the time, right? I mean, how in the world am I supposed to control all of these uncontrollable people?
Yeah. You
I can
just get to
inspire them,
control.
I can motivate them, I can guide them, I can talk with them, but I can't control them.
Right. Influence versus control.
Yeah.
And that's done from modeling what you honestly truly believe, and
Yeah.
what you believe you
Well,
might be
it's
encouraged
not,
to.
yeah, and actually what it really is it's an attempt to get as close to reality as possible so that you know what parts of your understanding you need to change.
Nice. Choose to change.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, that's true. Although I would say sometimes it feels very much like must.
But it right. And that's it brings you back to the mashed potatoes. You must like this. No, it exists, and you
But
choose to change.
there's a price you pay.
There's always a price you pay. That's the piece that most people miss, right? There's always a price you pay.
Yeah, so
If
the
you choose,
part of the
yeah,
agency, right, is you're you're not just choosing to do something, you're choosing not to do something.
correct. Yeah,
Okay, so right there, road less traveled, right? That you're making that's an opportunity cost, right? And then the consequences of both you may or may not have thought through all the way.
exactly. So, give
Yeah.
yourself this is good. I'm going to land this with give yourself a chance to reflect on what you do during the day. Does it matter to you? Does it matter to the people in your life? Right? Does it make a difference? Does it make a positive difference? And to recognize you have choice about the difference you make for yourself first, because if you're not aligned with the difference you're making in the world, it's going to be a pretty horrible kind of outcome. So,
If you define making a difference as you doing what you do, that's a problematic perspective. There is an independent understanding that is possible to get of all of our contributions, all of our relative importance, right, in any given situation.
mhm.
I think that one of the things we actually see in the models all the time, which is just fascinating to watch this happen, is the idea that, well, it's mainly around paradox. So different things, including all of us individually, can simultaneously be very small players.
Yeah,
And then at a particular time and place, we can be the only thing that matters.
yeah,
But
both.
that's not a persistent reality. That's of this
It
slice of
it's
time and
toggle.
space.
It's toggle, right?
Yeah.
Because right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap it with that. Make that a conundrum that we wrap with. This is awesome. I like it's something to ponder. If people want to find you and
LinkedIn.
yeah, okay, the best place.
My email box is a disaster because of all of the spam that I get.
Okay, mine
And
too.
so
Yeah, I get it.
basically, yeah, I would say it's LinkedIn for sure.
All right, Mark Stouse, Stouse, Stouse. Mark Stouse on
That's it.
LinkedIn, Proof Analytics. Mark, thank you for being my guest today. This is fabulous, as always, to talk with you. Thank you.
Wayne, it was a blast. Thank you.
It is a blast. So good. All righty. Mark Stouse, my guest on One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm your host, Dr. P, Dr. Wayne Pernell, host, guide, and coach on this journey. We'll see you again next time. Thanks for being here. Please like and share this. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.